Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Have a nice day, students, with the new lecture which is about the relative clause. This lecture is little bit different from the previous lecture, which is about the basic and grammar as a noun, pronoun, verb, determiners. So this relative clause is included in the syntax level, as syntax level is the formation of sentences. In this lecture, we will discuss that what is the clause and what is the relative clause and how many types relative clause have and what is the function of relative clause in the sentence. As by the name relative clause, so it means that it relates to something, either an subject, either object, or you can say that noun, pronoun, or adverb, right? Before going to explain or define this with what is the relative pronoun, we have some examples. By these examples, we have find them that what are the relative clause in the sentence. So here are the examples. Jack said, "Where are the books?" John replied, "Which books, Jack?" "The books that were lying on this table." "John, your friend has taken them, Jack, but I don't remember lending them to anyone." "John, your friend who visited us yesterday borrowed them from you, uh, Jack, now forgetful of me." Yes, can you find them that what are the relative clause in this sentence? Which books, who visited, just like that. So, what is a clause? Consequently, what is the relative clause? So, what is a clause? Uh, a student sentence is a collection of words, and the part of sentence you can say that it is a clause. What a clause is a group of words containing a finite verb. A clause may be a part of sentence. Yes, it is a collection of words, or you can say that it is a group of words containing a finite number, which means that it has a limited verbs, either one, two, or three. Yes. So, जैसे बताया कि एक सेंटेंस होता है, what is a sentence? सेंटेंस क्या होता है? कलेक्शन ऑफ वर्ड्स होता है. कोई भी पार्ट ऑफ सेंटेंस को हम कहते हैं क्लॉज कहते हैं. उस क्लॉज में या उस पार्ट में आपका वर्ब आ सकता है. वर्ब आपके ज्यादा नहीं होते, फाइनाइट होते, फाइनाइट की लिमिटेड होते हैं. ठीक है. So a clause may be a part of sentence actually. Now what is the adjective clause? Adjective clause is the one that describes a noun or a pronoun. We also call it a relative clause. Yes, ये हमारा मेन और की पॉइंट है कि एडजेक्टिव क्लॉज क्या होता है? दैट डिस्क्राइब्स the word that describes the noun and the word that describes the pronoun. और इसे हम दूसरा नाम देते हैं relative pronoun. So our lecture is about the relative pronoun, and its another name is the adjective clause, right? तो ये क्या करते हैं? व्हाट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ रिलेटिव क्लॉज? दैट डिस्क्राइब. अगर कोई नाउन बोल रही हूँ मैं, तो उसको डिस्क्राइब करते हैं कि दिस वन, यानी कि अगर मैं नाउन बोलती हूँ कि बुक्स, तो विच बुक्स, दैट विच डिस्क्राइब्स द बुक्स. सो इन द प्रीवियस एग्जाम्पल, लाइक विच बुक्स, the friend who visited. So who refers to the friend. So these are known as the relative clause. Clear? So its entry in the sentence, that what is the function of relative clause in the sentence are the books that were lying on the table are missing. So that were lying means the book that were lying. यानी कि जो दा है ये किसको रेफर कर रहा है, किसको डिस्क्राइब कर रहा है? बुक्स को. ठीक है. योर फ्रेंड हु विजिटेड अस यस्टरडे बोरोड देम. सो हु किसको डिस्क्राइब कर रहा है? फ्रेंड को. So such words that who are the relative clause. That who visited क्लॉज होता है पार्ट ऑफ सेंटेंस. ये कोई एक वर्ड नहीं होता, बल्कि स्टार्ट ये ऐसे होता है और इसके साथ पूरी फ्रेज जो लगी होती है, इस पूरी फ्रेज को हम कहते हैं relative clause. ठीक है. Relative clause is usually introduced by the relative pronouns such as who, which, that, whose, whom, where, and when. So these are some of the relative pronouns from which our clause starts. That who visited that, which books, that were lying in the, whose shop is this, whom you donate, where there are, when this place. So these are the some of the relative pronoun which I use as a relative clause. Yes. Relative clause are introduced just after the antecedent and are introduced by the pronoun or the relative adverb. So इसमें बताया कि relative clause यहाँ पे just come after the antecedent. Antecedent means the first word. It may be a noun, it may be a pronoun. So the first preceding word of the sentence. So the relative clause start after this antecedent and it introduced by pronoun or the relative adverb. Relative adverbs also describe the verb. So the most frequent ones are the who, whom, which, and that. Only in the defining relative clause and the relative adverbs are used as where, when, and why. So these are some of the relative clause that are used in the sentence to, you can say, that describes the noun or pronoun as well. Yes, provide an important additional information. A relative clause or adjective clause is the subordinate clause that gives information about a noun, subject or object in the main clause. So relative clause का एक यूज है that it gives the additional important information कि जब भी आप सेंटेंस में यूज करते हो ना तो वो एज अ नाउन के बारे में कुछ आपको इंफॉर्मेशन देता है दैट इज इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर यू. अब वो नाउन एज अ सब्जेक्ट यूज हो रहा है या एज अ ऑब्जेक्ट यूज हो रहा है लेकिन वो मेन क्लॉज में यूज होगा विच इज द मेन इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ योर सेंटेंस. So relative clause always describe the main information that you have to need it. So an information is related about a noun. So this noun is used as a subject or as an object in the word. So this is the first function of the relative clause. No useless repetition. Yes, the second function is we use the relative clause in order to avoid the repetitions. That I said that this house is beautiful, this house is large, this house contains, so this house. In order to avoid this repetition, I use these clauses. Subordinate clause are the clause which allow us to add information about the people or the things we are talking to without the need to repeat it. Yes, subordinate clause क्या होती है और you can say it as the defining clause क्या होती है. तो ये वो क्लॉज होती है जो हमें इंफॉर्मेशन बताता है कि जिसके बारे में हम बात कर रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैंने बताया कि दिस हाउस यानी कि मैं हाउस के बारे में बात कर रही हूँ और आगे पूरे सेंटेंसेस में उसी को रेफर करूंगी. सो इट गिव्स the information about the things we are talking to, and it is also used in order to avoid the repetitions, right? And that is the house. The house was built in the main road. So this is the repetition, the house, and again the house is used in the next phrase. In order to avoid this, we use as that is the house which was built on the main road. So that is the house refers which was built. So which refers to whom? The house. So the house which was built on the main road. So from the word which, this clause is known as the relative clause. Types of relative clause, yes, after defining and after explaining the definitions of the relative clause, there are two types of relative clause. Number one is the non-defining relative clause and the second is the defining relative clause. What are they? Non-defining relative clause. Look at the sentence. My grandfather, who is 90, goes jogging every day. So, in this sentence, who is 90 is the non-defining relative clause. It adds extra information to the sentence. If we take the clause out of the sentence still has the same function. So student, non-defining relative क्या होता है कि ये आपको extra information दी हुई होती है sentence में कि अगर ये information निकाल भी दी जाए then you have a convenient and organized यू कैन से दैट सेंटेंस इज देयर कि आपके पास प्रॉपर मीनिंग होता है. अगर वो सेंटेंस निकाल भी दिया जाए तो यू कैन लॉस्ट योर मीनिंग. अब ये सेंटेंस है, माय ग्रैंडफादर हु इज 90 गोज जॉगिंग एवरी डे. अगर हु इज 90 हम ना भी यूज करें मैं तो फिर हमें पता है कि द ग्रैंडफादर इज ओल्ड हु इज नियर टू 90 एज और समथिंग लाइक दैट. And if we use this sentence as my grandfather goes jogging every day, so it has a meaning कि अगर हम इस सेंटेंस को ना भी यूज करें तो हमें ये सेंटेंस हमें मीनिंग कन्वे कर रहा है. ठीक है. सो नॉन डिफाइनिंग रिलेटिव क्लॉज का मतलब होता है कि आपको एक्स्ट्रा इंफॉर्मेशन देती है विच इज नॉट इम्पोर्टेंट और विच इज नॉट यू कैन से दैट नीड ऑफ अ सेंटेंस. इट इज जस्ट यू कैन से देन एक्स्ट्रा इंफॉर्मेशन. अगर ये निकाल भी दी जाए तो यू हैव a proper meaning. Example of non-defining clauses are my eldest son, whose work takes him all over the world, is in the uh, Long Kong at the moment. So the second one example is the ear which can reach speed. The car which can reach speeds of over 300 km per hour cost over $500,000. The film This Starts 7 a.m. Cruise released on Saturday. So these are the examples of the non-defining relative clause that if we leave these sentences that whose works take him all, which can reach the speed of, and this starts at 7 a.m. So the film releases on Saturday. It's enough for us. It gives it conveys the proper meaning, right? Main features of the non-defining clause are it comes between the commas. That is not allowed. Means that word हम non-defining clause में use नहीं करते. ठीक है. The relative pronoun can't be omitted. जो relative pronoun होता है, for example जो his लगा देते कि बस सारा, अगर मैं क्या बात करूँ, सारा is beautiful, her clothes looks very pretty, so her clothes, the pronouns can't be omitted. It's less frequent than the defining relative clause. It is more formal and usually used in the written text. तो डिफाइनिंग रिलेटिव क्लॉज जो हम अभी नेक्स्ट में एक्सप्लेन होगा इससे ज़्यादा मतलब कि ये ज़्यादा फॉर्मल है. ये बहुत कम रेयर आप यूज़ करते हो. ठीक है. यानी कि रिटन टेक्स्ट में ये यूज़ होता है, इस पर लिखा जाता है. आप डेली रूटीन में ये वाला नॉन डिफाइनिंग क्लॉज आप यूज़ नहीं करते हो. ठीक है. आप शॉर्ट सेंटेंसेस यूज़ करते हो, आप एक्स्ट्रा इंफॉर्मेशन ज़रूरत नहीं होती, तो इट इज़ ओनली यूज इन द रिटन टेक्स्ट, नॉट इन दी informal languages. So it also adds extra information to the sentence. So these are the main features of the non-defining relative clause. So here comes the defining relative clause, which is the second type of the relative clause. It is defined as it is used to add important information to the sentence. The sentence could have a different meaning without a defining relative clause. So what is the difference between the defining and the non-defining relative clause? It means that in the non-defining clause, it gives the extra information which is not needed to a sentence. But in the defining relative clause, it gives the important information or the famous information to the sentence, and without it, we have a you can say different meaning. कि हमने नॉन डिफाइनिंग में पढ़ा कि अगर हमें वो सेंटेंस हम ना भी यूज़ करें तब भी हमें मीनिंग कन्वे हो रहा है. लेकिन डिफाइनिंग रिलेटिव क्लॉज में जब तक कोई एक्स्ट्रा इंफॉर्मेशन जो इम्पोर्टेंट इंफॉर्मेशन हमें ना दी जाए, उसके अलावा हम सेंटेंस का मीनिंग ही डिफरेंट हो जाता है. ठीक है. इट गिव्स a different meaning without a defining relative clause. They give essential information about their antecedents. Without them, the meaning will be incomplete. That is why you write them without comma. So क्या होता है कि एंटीसीडेंट जितने भी आपके नाउन है और जो फर्स्ट फ्रेज है ये उसके बारे में इट इज रिलेटेड, यानी कि उसके बारे में एक इम्पोर्टेंट मीनिंग देता है. ठीक है. और जैसे हम नॉन डिफाइनिंग को कॉमास में लिखते हैं, कॉमास में इसलिए लिखते हैं कि अगर कॉमास से ये हटा भी दिया जाए तो हमारा सेंटेंस कंप्लीट हो, लेकिन इन्हीं डिफाइनिंग रिलेटिव क्लॉज को हम कॉमास में नहीं लिखते. It is just a part of the sentence, or you can say that it is a continuation of the sentence. There is no comma or there is no blockage of sentence, और information ही important होती है, इसको हम बाहर नहीं निकाल सकते. ठीक है. The computer which we bought is very expensive, so which is related to the computer which is very expensive. The man who is coming will bring us the present. So who refers to the man? So there is no comma because it is an important information, and without it, it gives a different meanings. Like uh, the man, the man will bring us the present. So who is the person? We don't know if we don't use that who is coming. ठीक है. अगर हम ये नहीं बताएंगे कि the man who is coming वो present दे रहा है, तो इसके अलावा हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि कौन whose man is this, right? So now there is a comparison between the defining and the non-defining relative clause. I am going to wear the skirt that I bought in London. The defining relative clause tell us which skirt. So that skirt which I bought from in London. So it is an important information for you, and it is included in the defining relative clause. But the skirt, which is the lovely dark blue color, only costs this. So which is the lovely dark blue is not needed. It is just, you can say that, an extra information of the about the skirt. So it is a non-defining relative clause. It does not tell us that which skirt. It gives us information about the skirt. So it only gives the extra information. It not gives the specific or important information. So this is a comparison between them. Important facts. Yes, the non-defining relative clause can use most relative pronouns which and whose, but they can't use that, and the relative pronoun can never be omitted. So the second comparison between them is कि आप non-defining relative में जो the pronoun use करते हो which और whose use करते हो, लेकिन आप कभी भी दैट का वर्ड यूज नहीं करते हो इन नॉन डिफाइनिंग रिलेटिव क्लॉज में. और आप प्रोनाउंस जो होते हैं, जितने भी प्रोनाउंस होते हैं, वो कभी भी ओमिट नहीं होते. ठीक है. तो फिल्म द स्टार, जिसका मैंने प्रीवियस एग्जांपल दी थी, सेम. द नॉन डिफाइनिंग रिलेटिव क्लॉज आर द मोस्ट ऑफन यूज इन द रिटन इंग्लिश. जैसे मैंने पहले बताया कि इसमें इंफॉर्मेशन, एक्स्ट्रा इंफॉर्मेशन दी गई होती है, तो इट इज यूज इन दी फॉर्मल टेक्स्ट, और यू कैन से दैट इंग्लिश, रिटन इंग्लिश. देन इन द स्पोकन इंग्लिश, तो हम डेली रूटीन में इसको इनफॉर्मल वे में नहीं बोलते क्योंकि फॉर्मली यूज होती है. ठीक है. You can tell that the clause is a non-defining because it is separated by commas at the end of the clause. और इस तरह भी आप डिफ्रेंशिएट कर सकते हो कि ये हमेशा इन्वर्टेड कॉमर्स के अंदर होती है या इनके बाहर कॉमा लगा होता है. तो ठीक है, ये अलग से ही एक क्लॉज होती है. तो कभी भी कॉमा के अंदर जो क्लॉज होगी तो वो आपकी नॉन डिफाइनिंग क्लॉज होगी, आपकी डिफाइनिंग क्लॉज नहीं होगी, क्योंकि डिफाइनिंग क्लॉज में आप कॉमा यूज नहीं करते हो. ठीक है. Now we differentiate it. So here are the example of where as a relative adverb. So where adverb के लिए use होता है. The relative adverb where is used after noun referring to the places. Always it refers to some places and it comes after the noun. The house where the Mozart was born is now a museum. It is a relative clause because it is it is an important information, right? Mm, I flew to Prague means I flew to Dresden where I had to catch another plane to Oslo. So it is the non-defining relative means it gives the extra meaning which is not necessary or it is not needed. So example of when as a adverb. The relative adverb when is used after noun referring to the time and date. So where जो adverb use हुआ था वो किसी place को show करता था, लेकिन हम when कब यूज करेंगे, when यूज करेंगे हम किसी टाइम या डेट को शो करने के लिए. I can't remember a time when I was so happy. So it is the relative pronoun that the when I was so happy. So it is the information which is important for our sentence to convey the proper meaning. The most stressful day of the week is Monday when people go back to the work. So it is, yes, everyone knows that Monday is the working day. So there is an extra information which is included in the non-defining relative uh, clause. Now, here the example of why as an adverb. So the relative adverb why is used after the reason. Whenever you give some reason, so you use the why adverb. The reason why I didn't call you is that I have lost your phone number. So only use in defining relative clause because it is the information which is important, that I didn't call you because what is the reason? That's why I lost, as I lost your phone number, that's why I didn't call you. So, uh, why is always used with the defining clause, not with the non-defining clause here. Now, there is an example of whose, which is used as a relative pronoun. The engineer whose design is selected will be offered a contract. So, uh, this whose is used as a pronoun which refers to the engineer, and it is included in the defining relative clause. Uh, Van Gogh, whose paintings are popular today, was not appreciated during his life. So it is a non-defining relative clause because everyone knows that he is a famous one writer, but it never be appreciated during his life. But after his death, he has been, you can say, got the fame. So it is extra information, right? So here are the flow chart for the comparison of both the defining and the non-defining. They give an essential information, and they non-defining and the information given is the not essential. It can be omitted. Yes, it includes the pronoun who, that, which, that, whose, where, when, that, whom, and it includes the pronouns as who, which, whose, when, and where. Right? So this is the comparison between the defining and non-defining. So that's all right. This is all about the relative clause. That what is the relative clause, how it is used in a sentence, and how many types are there, and what includes in the defining relative clause, and what includes in the non-defining relative clause, and what is the difference between them. How pronouns are used in both these and these types of relative clause. So hope you got this concept. If there is any ambiguity and confusion, you'll ask me. Thank you, Allah.